So welcome to our first session, Is It Time to Hire? It is my pleasure to introduce to you all Rhonda Abrams. Rhonda is a USA Today small business columnist. She's a small business expert. She's also a small business owner. So what a perfect person for us to hear from to really learn about when is the right time to hire. So let me turn it over to Rhonda.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Sure.
Well, is it a little too loud? I'll speak slowly, but a little more softly. I'm delighted to meet you. I'm particularly delighted to have people who flew in from Colorado just for this event. That's I think you may win for the longest distance traveled, but the extra food and extra books. In fact, you can get another copy of my book, Hire Your First Employee, as can all of you. Or my Oprah moment, you get a book and you get a book. I'll be signing them, and everybody gets a book out there, and I'll be doing some one-on-one consulting with people, too, right after this session. So thank you all for coming. As she mentioned, I'm a small business owner myself, so the question of when is the right time to hire is one that I went through personally. And I later hired. I spent over a decade as a one-person business without hiring an employee, or even really, I had some contractors who did task for me, but not as an employee who was helping to run as a contractor who was helping to run my business. So I went through that arc of dealing with it. And so I understand what you folks who are thinking about whether you're going to hire for the first time and what kind of employee to hire. I have been there myself. So let me ask you, how many of you are here at this session because you're really trying to figure out whether it's the right time for you to hire and what kind of person to hire? Most of you. Okay, well, let's talk about some of this. And I think one of the most important things to ask yourself is when you're trying to figure out whether it's the right time to hire or whether to hire is, are you growing a job or are you growing a business? And I really want you to think about that, because when I started my business, I said, I don't want to be an employee. I knew I didn't want to be an employee anymore. I definitely had that aha moment and said, that's not what I want. But I also knew I didn't want to have employees. I had managed people, so I knew it was tough. And so my mantra was, I don't want to be an employee or have employees. And I held that mantra for a long time. And at one point, though, I realized is that I had created a very good job for myself. And there's nothing wrong with creating a good job for myself. I was making 6 figures a year. It was terrific. I had a lot of flexibility in my time. I was working like crazy, flying all over the place, doing all kinds of work. And I also realized the minute I stopped working, I stopped having an income. That I was growing a job for myself, but I wasn't growing a business. So there was no way for me to go from income to wealth. There was no way for me to build something where other people were generating income for me or products were generating income for me. And so one of the first key issues is to really figure out what your goals are when you're trying to think about hiring, because you cannot grow a business of any kind all by yourself, but you can grow a very good job. And there is nothing wrong with that. My younger sister, we've had this conversation many times. She's been in business. She's had a job that she created herself. She's been self-employed for 25 years. She's put 2 kids through college, got a beautiful home, has a beautiful pool, and she would never want to grow a business. So there is nothing wrong with making that choice. But if your choice is that you want to grow a business, then you have to follow Rhonda's rule, which is you can't grow alone. You really can't do it all yourself. Now, as an entrepreneur, we're people we like to do things ourselves. You wouldn't start your own business if you didn't feel capable, if you didn't feel like you could do things on your own. But one of the things that happens when you can do things, and you can do things, is that you find yourselves doing all of it. You do all of it, and frankly, you do a lot of it very well. Usually, there's not a problem because you're saying, I can't do it all, or there's things that I can't do. You are able to do a lot of it. You're able to stand in line at the post office to send your mail. You're able to put your invoices together. You're able to, deal with an independent contractor and try to get your product ships or talk to UPS. The question is that the best use of your time? Are you growing your business? Are you being your administrative assistant all that time too? And that's really a question for you to ask, but Rhonda's rule is you cannot do it all alone. You cannot grow alone. You can run your income, your job alone, but you can't grow a business alone. So let's talk about 7 signs that it's time to get help. Because there are different things for different companies that are signs. And the first one is you need employees day one. I mean, obviously, if you're starting a restaurant, you have a restaurant, you're going to open a restaurant. Almost all restaurants or cafes, you're going to need some people there day one to serve the food, to cook the meals, to clean up the kitchen. So you know that you have it. Child care center, other kinds of businesses. So I'm assuming that most of you in this room are not at that situation because you're not then thinking about it. You knew you would have it. Second, you're turning away work. I will tell you a personal pet peeve I have of myself is when I talk to a consultant or an individual self-employed person who says, I'm no longer looking for clients or customers. I have all the work I can handle. For me, it's like fingernails on a blackboard. Because one thing I know is that even good customers, you can lose even good customers, right? Anybody, if you've been in business for a while, you know that you have lost wonderful customers who love you, who've been good clients because they move away, they no longer have your need, various different things have happened in their lives, and as a result, there's attrition. So if you are not growing, you are shrinking. That is an absolute truth in a business. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. And I must tell you that the last person I knew who told me that they turned away work because they had all the work that they could, as soon as there was a recession, they went out of business. So if you are turning away work because you have more work than you can handle, then you are putting your business at some level of risk. So you need to be thinking about if you are turning away work, you probably need some help. If you have no time for invoices, this is surprising, but I can tell you many, many consultants and people I know don't have time to send out their invoices, and I was one of them. It is crazy, but you have time to pay your bills, but not to send out your invoices. If you don't have time to send out your invoices, you need help. If you're buried by paperwork, if you're spending your weekends, your evenings, your daytime work hours doing paperwork, and you can't get out from under it, you need help. If you have no time to develop your business, I'm not talking about new customers here, I'm talking about new products, new services, finding new ways to market yourself. If you are stuck because you really don't have the bandwidth to even come to a conference like this, then you need help. If you need specialized skills, so let's say you have a kind of business and you realize that now you need to perhaps do some e-commerce, create an e-commerce portion, and you need somebody who knows how to do that, and it's big enough so you can no longer just outsource it. You need help. And finally, if you want to grow. If you want to grow, you need help. So those are sort of 7 signs that if you need, it's time to do it. And I see you taking pictures, which you're welcome to do, but all of this is in my book, which you will get free outside there too. So you're all getting that as well. So here's another one of Rhonda's rules, which is you can start small. My first hire was a 10-hour-a-week, $10 an hour employee. I didn't hire a full-time person right away. I figured $100 a week I could manage. I was doing very well, and they could at least run to the post office for me. They could at least ship out some things that I have to ship. So I put my toe in the water before I jumped in because, remember, I was working out of my home, didn't have a place for them. I was going through this kind of issue where do I want somebody to know where I am, when I am? because I have all this flexibility in my life, and now I'm going to be calling employees saying, well, I'm going to be out 6 more minutes. I don't want that in my life. So it took a while for me to do that. Fortunately, I found an absolutely fabulous person who made the experience for me a lot better and really produced. So I guess the next question is, who do you hire first? What type of employee do you hire first? And that was one that people struggle with. And these 4 are basically the common kinds of first hires. And let me explain what I mean by them. And mostly, one of the first things you need is administration. I hired an admin. I'm looking at you. You're probably going to have your first hire is probably going to be an admin. I was talking to a couple of people. Because that's the person who can take some of the burden off of you. And the reason that people don't hire that person first is because they appear to cost money rather than bring money in. Most people want their first hire to be a salesperson. That's usually the thought that we have, which is, I need somebody who's going to make me more money. I want somebody to go out there and sell for me. So you have to evaluate if that's really the problem that you have, that you don't know how to sell, that people aren't coming to you, or whether you don't have enough time to manage your you're using your own time where you could be doing business development, doing it on administrative tasks. And also you have to think about what you like to do, because that's another issue. I'm a good salesperson, and I like business development and sales. I'm not afraid to go out and ask somebody for work or negotiate a deal. So it's not necessarily something I don't like doing. But a lot of people hate doing that. So you have to figure out what it is you want. Bookkeeping, often you outsource that, but one thing, remember, we went back to not invoicing, and sometimes you can have that being together. And then somebody who's actually going to do, when I call production workers, somebody who's going to do what you do and maybe make more money for you that way. So I have a hairdresser up here because let's say this woman is an individual hairdresser and she's got more work than she can handle. What are the kinds of people that she could hire first? She could hire a receptionist who could take appointments and maybe help with shampooing, right? Or she could hire another hairdresser who might be able to then be taking in income for her. Or she could be hiring somebody to go out and market her, although she's already very busy. So looking at that, she really needs to figure out what's going to, in the long run, both bring her more money and make her more satisfied. Because remember, if she hires that extra hairdresser, she's now going to be taking her time making the appointments and cleaning out the back cabinet and the storage and reordering shampoo. So it's a balance for you as to what your needs are and what your skills are and what you like to do. But also don't be afraid to grow in that. My very first client was a clothing designer, a sportswear designer, a couple who'd started it. And they loved designing clothes. And that's why they went into the business, was because they loved designing clothes. But as they grew, actually the husband really discovered what he liked doing was building a business. And he was happy to let the clothes designing being handled by somebody else. Many other people would have the exact opposite. They would not want to leave go of designing the clothes and would rather have somebody who would run the business side of it. So that's the struggle that you have to think through, is what is it that you want to do and need done. And often it's not the first thing that you think of, because many people think that the first, somebody who read my book came up to me and said, can't thank you enough. I thought I was going to hire a salesperson until I read the book, and I realized that I needed an admin, and that was who I hired first, and it's been great, and it's really helped my business grow. And that's the other thing to think about. What will help your business grow the most? Because remember, you're thinking about growing a business and not just a job, and allowing yourself to grow this way. I briefly just want to go through some of the places you can find employees, because that's one of the other difficult issues, is where do I find my first employee? I found my first employee with a classified ad in a newspaper. Do you remember those? So a company called Craigslist came along and ended that. So, And Craigslist has still been a very popular place for me to found people. And are most of you in the Bay Area? Where are you from? Lodi. And drove all the way here for the conference. So Craigslist is usually a very good place, especially for admin. LinkedIn, and you're all getting a free first employer package from LinkedIn as attendees here. So that gives you a chance to try advertising on LinkedIn, I believe. So that's a great another free gift. You get a LinkedIn account, and you get a LinkedIn account. But I do want to also say that probably the best place to find people is your network. Networking with other people really can help you. So when I'm thinking about some of the current employees, the people who I have, one, I used to belong to a group called the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs, and they had a online sort of newsletter list kind of thing where we would spread it around. And I said I was looking for someone, and through that network, I got the employee she's now back working for me for the third time. And through her, I got the person who's now my head of operations. And these are two of my most important employees who came through my network. So use your network. Use your Facebook page. Use the organizations you belong to. Use your friends and family, because usually people that you know are likely to have people that you would respect. So I do want to open it up for questions, but before I do, I want to say many of you are sole proprietors in here, are self-employed, not what the government calls, there's a term for you, non-employer businesses. And there are 22 million non-employer businesses in 2010. If 1% of you, if 1% of those 22 million hired one person, we would create 220,000 new jobs in America. That's a lot of impact that we can have, and that you can have in your own business as well. So it's not just doing something for the rest of the world. I think you really recognize that you change your business. Hiring people can change your business. You can grow a business. It changes your life. And let me tell you one way in which this has changed my life. Weekends in February, I am not doing my taxes. When all my friends, when I'll call them to do something in February, and they'll say, I can't. I'm spending all weekend doing my taxes. I don't do that because I have somebody in my office who is doing the QuickBooks entries, doing the management of that, working with our accountant, and so I get some of my life back. It also changes your life because you create a great job for other people, and that's an incredibly satisfying thing to do. I often like to say, and I will say it again a little later, that many of us do things to help improve the world. We'll run a marathon. We'll run, maybe not a marathon, but we'll do a 10K walk. Let's do that. Write a check. But, almost nothing has as big of an impact as creating a good job. It really does change the world as well. But what I'd like to do is open it up for some questions for people about your own hiring situation and what's on your mind. So we can have a little conversation here, and then I can do one-on-one consulting with people later. Yeah?
You mentioned that you decided to hire your employee for about $100 a week. That would work good. One of my biggest concerns is taxes, payroll taxes, that sort of thing. So how do you kind of or get an idea of what that additional cost is for having an employee? So it's $100 a week for him, but how much more for the business because of all the other expenses? And
then I think there's a rule of thumb of, if you figure, it can be as high as sort of 25% extra. So, I mean, we have in my company, we have full benefits. I give health, dental, vision. We have a life insurance. I mean, I'm a small company. Life insurance, we have a 401k. No, it's a 401k or program. We just changed the whole thing. And so I do full benefits. So there is an extra cost. And one of the issues is, do you hire somebody as an independent contractor or as an employee? At that particular time, I was able to hire that person as an independent contractor because they were working for other people. The hours were more flexible on their hours. I met the requirements, the legal requirements. So first of all, you want to make sure you're staying legal. At some point, you don't become legal in doing it, and you want to stay within the law. It's a very bad law to break. doing that. The other thing is, so I basically figure about 25% extra when I'm thinking about it, but the benefits that I have by having somebody be an employee and really loyal to me and to the company and really seeing their future there has really been important to me. You have a question?
Advantage, disadvantage of remote versus on-site first employee?
First employee or second? And let me tell you, I'm right now dealing with that question myself. I'm asking myself that question for not my first employee, but we're hiring a social media person. Let me tell you. So if you're part-time or full-time, on-site or remote, we're still dealing with some of that questions because that's a job that theoretically could be remote. I tend to like face-to-face. I think your first employee is probably one that's likely to be face-to-face. What kind of business do you have? A consulting business. So I think, if you do remote, I think you do want to find time that you are actually spending time together, getting to know one another, because there's definitely synergy of being together. The synergy of coming up with new ideas, bouncing things off of. I do, and it's also personal style. I'm a very collaborative kind of person, and I think we solve problems a lot better. We have an open office environment, so we all talk to one another. And I think for many people, the first employee might be someone where you really want to help you grow the business by thinking through, and you want to have their day-to-day advantage of their mind and not just doing tasks. Depends on what the tasks are. Yeah.
Okay. Here's my question. I like you very collaborative in what I do.
Oh, that should.
We have a recruiting firm, so we recruit. One of the things that I'm looking for in someone who's admin is someone who is going to be able to kind of think for themselves insofar as this is how I want to structure this system, this is how I want the filing system to go, that kind of thing. Is that unrealistic of an expectation to put on someone who's an admin? Because I just think it would be more helpful because I don't plan on handling the files. I really need you to handle that, and I need to not have to worry about when I need something where it's at.
Well, that's a really good question. What's your name? Twana. I think a lot of it is learning what your management style is and what you're comfortable with. And I always say with my employees is that I'm a very good manager of people who don't need to be managed. Excuse me for a second. Something just got in my throat. And you do want people to have a sense of ownership. Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. One more second. I don't know what happened. I think one of the things that a small business, a squeaky person here, one of the benefits that a small business has over a big corporation is that that an employee does feel like they can make a difference, that they have ownership of something. And so I do like, my admin did set up the files, did set up the system, but I think you want to be involved with it enough because you want to provide some leadership. So I think it's a collaborative environment. You want them to start thinking. So one of my rules is bring your brains to work. I don't hire people just to do tasks. I hire them to help grow my business, help grow our business. So I want them thinking through things, and I give them responsibilities. And the question is having them come back to you and talk to you through it. And you're going to learn some advantages of things you can do today. You would certainly want to share that, and you want to be learning yourself. So learn from them, and if somebody is doing stuff for you independently, make sure that at least once or twice a week you're sitting down with them and finding out what they're doing, and it's what you can live with long term. One more question.
No more. Actually, we don't have
No more. Okay. But I will be doing one-on-one, and my voice will come back in a second, I promise, and good luck with all of this. Thank you.